Well, hello and welcome everyone. It's nice to see so many people joining us today from all different parts of the world for this very special webinar that we've got with our special guest and a good friend who we'll introduce you to in just a moment. For those of you who don't know my voice, my name's Stephen Wright. I live in Melbourne, Australia, and you probably tell that from my funny accent. And it's my privilege today to introduce you to a gentleman who we met under the strangest of circumstances. We really did. A couple of years ago, I come across Mark, and Mark was actually looking and trying to help a company that he'd invested in many years ago, trying to help them, move forward with what they were doing. And he thought he could give him some hand in marketing because he'd been so successful himself in the direct sales industry. And when I say that, I'm really underpinning the success he's had. And we then struck up a conversation and we got to know each other a little bit. And over time, I've learned a lot from the gentleman, and I'm just so honoured and privileged to be able to be working with him on this project, and it wouldn't have come about without him. So Mark is a Canadian, so you'll tell that from his accent. His accent's a little bit different than mine. He's a husband, he's a father, he's a grandfather, and he's a highly successful entrepreneur. Many of you know that I've been pretty successful in the network marketing and the direct sales industry, personally getting to 6 and 7 figure incomes, and also building large global teams and helping them get to those types of incomes. And I can tell you, I've never worked with or had the pleasure to be in the company of someone who's had the success of Mark Crawford. He is a legend in the industry in what he's done, and he's done it for many, many years, been highly successful. Then he's ventured out into business and investment and different things like that. And I just asked Mark, would he mind, because he helped us to put One World, One Community together and sponsor a child and all of that. And I just wanted to ask Mark if he'd come on and share a little bit about his experience in the industry and what we're doing and why he's excited about what we're doing. So please welcome my good friend, Mark Crawford. Are you there, Mark?
I sure am, Stephen. Thank you. Wow, I've got a lot to live into here with that intro. But yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be engaged with you folks there and other people around the world. And Stephen suggested maybe we just have him ask us a couple of questions and us just to comment on some of those things. And if I look back at my youth, I guess, when, I was getting traction as a young adult, I guess I did what everybody else told me to do and my parents told me to do. And, and that was, you get as good of an education as you can, and then you get as good of a job as you can, and then you work as hard as you can, and everything will turn out fine. Well, I was in Western Canada. I grew up in the East, moved out West to hook up with the oil and gas industry, which is where I spent the first 5 years of my career. My wife has a social work degree, so she was a social worker for the government of Alberta. And so after 5 years of us working at those careers, and having a mortgage on a house and having payments on cars and watching the money every 2 weeks. We'd work for 2 weeks and we get a check, and then we work another 2 weeks and we get another check, and we just watch that money come in and then just disappear again. And after 5 years of that, we are in our late 20s looking at each other going, is this it? Is this what we're going to do for another 45 years, really? And that's when we came to the conclusion by ourselves that there has to be a better way. And that is when the direct sales industry came along to us and came into our life. And probably like a lot of you folks who understand this business and this industry, you know, it was just somebody calls you up and says, hey, I want to show you something, and we said okay, and so they come over and helped us understand how this worked. And you know what we saw was that very first night we saw the opportunity to have potentially the time and the money to do the things that we want to do. And we didn't really have any money at that time, so the fact that there was very little capital and investment, and we had jobs, and so knowing that it was just a part-time effort thing fit into what it is that we did. The best part that we saw was leverage. We could have somebody else who already knew what to do help us build our business, and we didn't have to pay them. Well, that's unheard of in the business world. Where does that ever come along other than this industry? And that was 30 years ago. And it'll be September this year, it'll be 30 years since I left my job in the oil and gas industry. And it's interesting because I walked out of my office that day, and I actually had some shorts underneath my work clothes. I took them off in the parking lot. I put them in a pile, and I soaked them down with barbecue starter fluid, and I lit them on fire. And I didn't do that to discredit anybody. That was a symbol to me that nobody was going to control my time and my money for the rest of my life. I was in a position now for the rest of my life where I could sleep till I'm finished. I eat lunch when I want. I go on vacation when I want to go. And I'm not saying that to say yay me. I'm just saying that to say that's what this industry offers. And so 30 years later, we've made millions of dollars, and the promise was accurate. Having the time and the money to do the things that you want to do. A lot of times we label that freedom in our industry. Even though we live in a free enterprise society, most people really don't ever appreciate or understand or enjoy freedom because they don't have control of their time and their money. So that's who we are. That's how we've lived pretty much our whole adult lives, and it's been we've been blessed very, very much. Stephen?
So as I mentioned, Mark, we met under the strangest of circumstances, and you know, obviously, then 2 years later, as you know, we've launched One World, One Community, and the Sponsor a Child program, which I know you're very excited about. Obviously, with your help working with the product developers, because you're an investor in that company, and you know the corporate team very well. You know a lot about this product. What could you share? Like, you know, you really are a legend in the industry in my view, and just with what you said, you were very honest in what you were saying, but you were humble in what you were saying as well, in the success that you actually have had. And so, what could you tell the people here about the product that what we're doing with the Sponsor a Child program, the product, the corporate team behind it? Anything you'd like to share? I know, for example, that in one of the instances there where I think it was down in Colombia or somewhere down in South America, where there was a father who contacted you and his autistic son talking for the first time. So anything along those lines where you could give an insight into the life-changing possibilities of this product and why you're excited about it.
Yeah, thank you, Stephen. You know, I think that the idea of giving back and being a humanitarian is built into all of us. It really is there. Deep down in, I mean, we are good people. We like it when we can love. We like it when we have joy. We like it when we can empower somebody else. That's really what brings joy to our life. It's not more money and, you know, all the trappings of our commercial world that would suggest that if you don't have that next thing, then, you know, you're going to suffer somehow. You know, none of us are wired up like that, and we all know that. But I think is part of the culture for me when I was growing up as a kid, because my parents seemed to always have, you know, another kid or two at our place, staying there, whether, you know, they get kicked out of their own house, or, you know, they're just less fortunate, and, you know, it was better for them to live with us. And we just lived in a, you know, a simple middle class family, nothing fancy at all. But I think that I learned the concept of giving back and creating a humanitarian spirit from my parents. And so, you know, when I looked at this product 10 years ago and thinking about a game-based platform designed to teach kids English, I said, this is it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And then when I started to think about the numbers and researched a little bit, understanding that there's 3 billion non-English speaking people looking to learn to speak English right now. It would take so many millions of English speaking teachers, we call them ESL, English as a second language teachers. It's not even physically possible to get to all of those people. And, you know, what we've come to realize is that it's easier for children to learn a new language. It's easier for kids, especially a game-based kid. Stephen, I've often heard you say, you know, it's so much simpler, and kids gravitate to this concept and this platform because a kid is always going to want to play a video game much quicker than they are to sit down with some kind of a textbook, no question. And, you know, what a difference it makes. You know, if you go to any non-English speaking country in the world, the people who speak the best English have the best jobs. They have the best careers. They have the best opportunities. They have the most confidence. Why? Because they're able to dream about possibilities. Because learning the English language gives them a step up on just about everybody around them. We watched this happen over the last few years, and we had this product into the school system in Puerto Rico. And we had one young man that we watched for 3 years, and we videoed him, and we interviewed him. We did all those kinds of things, and we watched him grow as a young kid, starting about 8 years old, and as he became a teenager. And just listening to him talk, and listening to him talk about not only what he's accomplished so far in the language of English, but what now his aspirations and his dreams have become because of his ability to learn English through Woogie English. As Stephen talked about the dad that was calling us basically in tears. He had 2 young boys. I think they were like 6 and 8 years old. And the youngest child had never spoken at all before, ever, with autism. And, you know, getting on this product and playing this game, he learned to actually speak. And at the first time that his parents had ever heard him speak. And when you hear stories like that and what a difference it can make in people's lives, it's off the charts as to what it does to motivate you to get the word out. It does that for me anyway. So I invested in this business several years ago, as Stephen said, probably 10 years ago, but we didn't really have the right platform to get it around the world. You know, we just didn't have the right team in place, and we stumbled into and always kept butting our heads against, you know, school systems and superintendents and school boards and those kinds of things that sometimes were not the same people 2 months from now as they were 2 months ago. And then, you know, when we started to connect with Stephen and Andres and Carol and Anita, and the whole concept of Sponsor a Child came to fruition, I was absolutely blown away, because for the first time in 10 years, I said, bam, that's it. We got it. That is exactly how it has to happen. We need to get this into the kids' hands free. Get it into the kids' parents' hands free. Right? I look at all these other companies. We have one in Canada. I don't know if they're worldwide or not, but it's called Habitat for Humanity. And it's a not-for-profit, but They build houses for people. And those are great physical changes for people. People that don't have good housing, if you can provide good housing, that's really, really good. There's another company I know that my wife and I sponsored, World Vision's children. I think we had 5 World Vision's children for, I don't know, 20 years kind of thing. They just keep giving you new kids. And you sponsor these kids for so many dollars a month, whatever it was. And, you know, these kids are provided with better food and better water conditions and more physical advantages. But when I look at One World, One Community in the Sponsor a Child program, yeah, the first change is physical because they're going to learn to speak English. The second change is going to be mental because the confidence level of those children and their parents watching what happens to them is going to now open lots of new possibilities. And so because of that, the third change is back to physical again, where that kid now has the opportunity to create a better life for him or her and their family. So I'm extremely, I'm just blown away by how good of a fit that this is in this business model. I'm very satisfied with the model that's been chosen to get this to kids free, where it will be, you know, the greatest possible effect around the planet is realized. So, you know, I love it, Stephen. I think it's brilliant. You guys have done such a great job of getting it up and running, and we're looking forward to helping you move this around the world. So back to you, Stephen.
Well, thanks, Mark, and yeah, certainly, I know that story with the father and the child with autism really touched my heart, and it helped to spur on the concept of the Sponsor a Child program. And I know that just in what we're already achieving, and we've only hit the tip of the iceberg really to what we're about to do, you know, but being able to, before we even made one sale with One World, One Community, with your support and with the support of the product developers, we were able to give away over 10,000 programs to children, so they have access to the whole English program for a full year for no cost. And we hadn't even made a sale yet, and that was a combination, obviously, of your efforts working with us and us, and obviously also with Larry and the team back at corporate headquarters. So, you know, when we look at where we're going with this from that, and that's why with One World, One Community, you know, we've got a big goal. You know, Mark, that for me, I like to dream big, and I always say that if you have a really big, hairy, audacious goal, and you know, if you aim for it, and if you miss it, you still do a lot of good anyway. And that's why One World, One Community in our first year is to get the program out to 1 million children. And I know that you were really impressed with that. And what I'd like to say to all the people who are listening in now and the ones who are listening to this on a recording, just imagine the impact that this will have when we've reached that goal of 1 million children. And that's just our foundation. That's what we build this company upon. 1 million children now have access to the program, and they're learning English for all of those reasons, as Mark was talking about, and others. Imagine the impact it will have on those children's lives. Imagine the impact on those families' lives and their communities. Imagine the impact that can have on the world. That's what we're talking about here. That's the work we're doing. And at the same time, with One World, One Community, we've gone into a model that is along the lines of what Mark's built his whole career on, you know, where he went into that line, except we're a direct marketing humanitarian company. So we're doing things a little bit different, where it's a cash reward program, where it's a program that you can actually be proud to be part of. It's a program you can be proud to promote, just simply not because you'll make money, which you will, but because you're leaving that legacy. You're making a difference, because every person you share this program with, you're helping more children. And the more children you help, the more money we'll pay you. So why would you recommend this in your words, Mark? Like you've seen a lot of companies out there. There's a lot of great companies in the industry. Why, if there was someone out there listening to this and they're going, well, why would I choose One World, One Community over the other options I've got? You know, whether that be a traditional job or sharehold, you know, doing shares or all that, or getting into a direct sales company. Why would you say that you'd recommend that they choose One World, One Community?
Well, first of all, I think, you know, when I look at any kind of a business, I like to know what's my marketplace, right? And so what sets us apart from anybody, doesn't matter what the model is we're a humanitarian business for profit. And that's that's almost unheard of, right? I mean, it doesn't sound right to most people, but ultimately we know what drives everything around the planet, and that is entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs drive everything. All these fabulous not-for-profit organizations are all driven by somebody who's made a lot of money. And so what we're doing here is collectively, as opposed to one individual with a lot of money coming in and making this happen, we have collectively put a model together that everybody can participate in financially, and everybody can participate in with the rewards. So my first question always is, when I look at a business, is what's the marketplace? And so if we look at that particular question, is we have about a billion kids wanting to learn to speak English. And then we have the first world generosity that exists out there. And most people have loving, giving hearts and would love to be able to contribute to those less fortunate. They either have no time or they don't know how. All this is a tool for people. This is a vehicle for people so they can execute what it is they'd really love to do anyway. So this is the world's first model, to my knowledge, where we can be financially compensated for humanitarian effort. And that's okay. You know, there will be people trying to suggest to you and me that somehow this is a bad idea because people are getting paid to do well. It's not a bad idea. In fact, it's a great idea because you have massive participation and everybody's chipping in a little bit. So from a business perspective, for me, I look at it and go, well, the platform's built for me already. It's already built for us, right? You guys did a fantastic job of doing that. So I don't have to do any of that. I don't have to do any web designing. I don't have to come up with any logos. I don't have to come up with any products or any of those things. The compensation plan, which in the direct sales industry varies. I know the average is about 28% on a dollar that's paid back to people like you and me. And I can assure you one thing, that One World Community pays a heck of a lot more than that. But it's the compensation plan, the best one that I've ever seen as far as percentage back to the active members. The other thing that's attractive, if you understand this industry, there's no physical product. So there's no shipping, there's no inventory, there's no returns, there's no monthly purchases required. But we can still leverage others' efforts and volume. You can leverage Stephen and Andres and their success from the past in this industry and understanding how to build networks of people around the world. You can leverage other people's efforts, other people's volume. That's what a grocery store does. A person who owns a grocery store leverages his employees or her employees to get a job done. They make money because their employees are working. Yes, they pay them. Exactly the same model here without all the overhead. So to me, this is absolutely brilliant. It's easy to explain. The end consumer benefits incredibly in the children. It's a tax-deductible enrollment package that you start with. So you get the same thing here that you would get with in a not-for-profit. And there's an opportunity to create a significant income in completing the process. So from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, I can tell you one thing, I love it. I love this. I think this is going to be a big hit. And the reality is you who are listening right now are at the absolute perfect time to engage and get involved and get your positions as quickly as you possibly can. And we'll help you with the marketing skill around that and put some things together that'll make it easier for you to get this message across to people. But we're looking forward to not only making a difference around the world in people's lives that are less fortunate, but also entrepreneurs' lives that can understand this model and take it to the world. So thanks a lot. I appreciate the opportunity to be on here with you tonight. Back to you, Stephen.
Well, Mark, I just want to thank you because I know you're a busy man, and for you to take time out to do this special webinar, really do appreciate and value that. I value our friendship and I value our relationship, and thank you for having faith in us. And I'm really glad under those strangers of circumstances that we got to meet and we're on this journey together. So thank you very much for that. And I'd like to say to all of you here today, I know that we've got some guests and we've got the recording. We will get the recording out for you. If you need more information, if you want to know more about One World, One Community or the Sponsor a Child program, get back to the person who invited you. You can only get started in this program through an affiliate. So the person who invited you more than likely is already an affiliate, and they can get the questions. You can go to their websites. You can get your questions answered. And we just love to. I'd like to be one of the first people to welcome you aboard. We've got a global community. It's an exciting global business. You can be doing this anywhere in the world, and you can do it all on the device. Everything's set up. The affiliate sites are set up. The retail site we're about to launch. Very exciting. So we're just looking to improve and improve and improve as we're moving forward. And I'd just like to say thank you to each and every one of you for being here today. I didn't mention that India. I know that we've got one of our directors from our India operation that we've already got the company registered. We've already got the offices set up. We're in the process of setting up the Indian back office for our India members. That's all about to be released so that in India they can be dealing in their local currency of INR, the Indian rupee. So very exciting time to be getting involved, because it's not who you know, it's who you know that might know someone who might know someone in India or other parts of the world, because we are a global business. So once again, thank you very much, Mark, for taking the time and sharing the benefit of your experience. And thank you to each and every one of you for being here today. Have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world, and look forward to seeing you on our next webinar. Bye for now, everyone.